So the mighty Space Marines have been shown off with their new Dreadnought, their Infernus Marines, and all the fancy new characters besides, but can they possibly hope to hold out against a whopping 47 new Tyranid bioforms ready to overrun the entire planet and consume it for the hive mind? Let's take a look at what the brand new 10th edition starter set Leviathan will be bringing for all you NID players in the new edition. As mentioned, the NIDs have a huge amount of minis in this box, outnumbering the Marines nearly 2 to 1, which might not be so bad if it was all Gaunts, but there are some genuinely terrifying new units in this set who can literally rip tanks apart. But the first model we're going to look at is one we've actually seen before. In fact, we've seen him ripping a Terminator in half before, and that is of course the brand new winged Tyranid Prime, who is the de facto leader of this set, with arguably one possible alternative, and he looks to be aimed at moving up with some of the other fast moving units in the box to bring his talons and his claws into melee, where he can very neatly remove the squishy, fleshy humans from their power armor, and from the looks of it, he is going to be exceedingly good at it. But if there is a contender to the Prime's leadership over this section of the Swarm, it would almost certainly come in the form of this brand new unit, the Neurotyrant. Now this guy, as the name may suggest, is the same genus as the more well-known Hive Tyrant, but he is less inclined in the martial prowess side of things, and instead he has been focusing on the books, and he is all about those mental powers. The Neurotyrant is a focus point of psychic power, not only acting as a sort of conduit for the Shadow of the Warp, but also using the powers of the hive mind to literally blow up tanks and melt people's brains, as we see him do to the poor librarian in the cinematic trailer. The model itself is absolutely gorgeous. I really do love it, and I love the fact that it has a very cool throwback within it, because if you look at the crest which makes up its head, you may notice, especially if you were around during 2nd and 3rd edition, a very familiar design, and that is because this guy is very much inspired by the old 2nd edition Zonathrope. He almost seems to be a mashup of that old model alongside the newer lithe snake-like Zonathrope bodies that they have, as well as just having a little bit of Hive Tyrant thrown in to give him a bit more of a buff look. He is just utterly gorgeous, and he even comes with a couple of small bodies to help him presumably focus even more psychic power from the hive mind. So those two are probably the leadership slash HQ style options within the set, and what follows them is a literal horde of Gaunts and Gants. First up we have 20 Termagants, which we've already seen before. They also come with a couple of Ripper Swarms in tow to gobble up all the biomass, and they have definitely had a glow up. They look so much bigger and more imposing and detailed and just scary now. Like, you can imagine a wave of these coming at you, firing their inhuman weapons at you and just being genuinely afraid. Whereas the current models, at least if you look at them nowadays by comparison to some other newer models, they tend to look arguably a little bit less scary and maybe a little bit more comical. Like, if they were charging towards you, you would kind of laugh, I think. Whereas if these guys are charging towards you, they do look like they're going to overrun you and just utterly demolish you. In addition to the Termagants, we also get some brand new, never seen before Gaunts, the first of which are the new Neurogaunts, who have a sort of squad leader in the Node Beast, which is the slightly larger one you can see in the middle of the picture. It looks like there are 10 of them and the Node Beast, so 11 in total. And Neurogaunts are essentially a Gaunt which has another parasitic Tyranid form on their back, and they are supposedly there to serve as a relay for Synapse, so they will presumably allow synaptic bubbles and abilities to maybe project out further or affect other units, or maybe give some additional benefit somehow. And then on top of that, they also act as bodyguards to nearby Synapse creatures. And there was a rumour a few weeks ago that I was told about these guys, where it said if they were closer to an enemy, the enemy had to shoot them before anything else. So essentially they had an even better form of lookout sir, because it protected everything. It meant even if your opponent wanted to shoot at your Termagants, they couldn't, because they would have to shoot these guys as long as they were closer. So if that is true, you put these guys at the front of your army and basically everything is safe until they've been killed. Of course, we will have to wait and see whether that is actually true or not, but it certainly does seem, if nothing else, that these guys are going to be a crucial part of your strategy if you are going heavy on the synapse creatures. The final new form of Gaunt we see is the Barbgaunts, and much like the Neurogaunt, they have a sort of a symbiotic relationship, but unlike the Neurogaunts, who have something called a neurocyte on their back, the Barbgaunts have something called a ganglioparasite, which attaches them quite literally to a massive biocannon, pretty much turning them into walking artillery pieces. Now, these aren't biovores, they did make that clear in the preview, they are something completely different, and they are actually on bigger bases than you would expect for a Gaunt. These come on 40mm bases, and there are 5 in this set. And what they do basically is apparently their attacks debuff enemy units. So we may find that they're not super powerful in terms of damage. Maybe the biovores will be where the high strength, high damage artillery shots come from, but these ones, they debuff the enemy. So maybe they will hinder an enemy squad by making it have less movement or do some other nasty stuff to it, maybe reducing its OC value or its leadership, so you can really debuff a unit and combo to make it fail battle shock so that it can't really do much on the battlefield. Adding to the fast moving theme of this NID army, we also have 3 new models in the Von Ryan's Leapers, which again we've already seen. These are slightly smaller than a Lictor, but slightly bigger than a Hormagaunt, but they seem to be a mix of the two. They are about Terminator size based on the picture that we see of them, and they are essentially a pack hunting Lictor light. Picture Velociraptors from Jurassic Park, and I think you will be pretty much in the right ballpark. They are meant to be very, very fast and very good at ambushing people, so I imagine they will not only be fast if you deploy them normally, but they will presumably have some kind of infiltrate rule as well, so they can pop up where your opponent least expects it and just charge into combat and rip things to shreds. The final 2 parts of the Tyranid puzzle in this box are firstly the enormous new Psychophage, which is an absolutely spectacular, very bug-like creature which is essentially a psyche eating machine. It will of course eat anything it comes across, it's not super fussy, but it does have a particular taste for psychers, and you can see the remains of an unfortunate Space Marine librarian by the looks of it in its tendrils about to be thrown into its gigantic maw. It appears from the sound of it that this will have some kind of rule where you consume things and then you can use that biomass and that essence to expel some enormous, probably flamer style attack, which gets stronger as you consume more enemies. So maybe there will be some extra special buff when you eat a Psyker, or it will get some kind of boost after you eat a Psyker, and then you can do this huge attack that just destroys anything in its wake. The design of the model is very Haruspex inspired, but to me it looks very bug-like. It looks like a giant tick, and that to me just makes it even more terrifying. So I really do love this model as well. The final thing, however, is possibly one of the most exciting, again with a huge throwback to 2nd edition. This time it is the infamous Screamer Killer Carnifex, which is bred, literally just bred, to rip the heaviest armor apart, and he looks every inch as though he can do that with no problem. There were some reports I read on Twitter from Warhammer Fest of people that had been playing the test games, and one of these things ran through an entire squad of the Infernus Marines after taking shots from 2 Ballistus Dreadnoughts. So he really does sound genuinely quite terrifying, and like he is just going to get into your lines and rip everything to pieces. And I mean, he just looks so cool as well. It is such a fantastic redesign of the current Carnifex, as well as taking those key hints and ideas and inspiration from that classic 2nd edition version and just meshes them so well to really bring forth a new model, a new creature that really does genuinely look like he could rip apart a Titan. We also get a glimpse at his datasheet, and as you can see, he is pretty hefty. He's T9 with 10 wounds and a 2-up save, so he isn't quite as durable as the Space Marine Dreadnought from this set. But then you look and you see he has 10 strength, 10 attacks at -2 AP and flat 3 damage. So he really can inflict a huge amount of pain onto your opponent, and I think on average with that stat line, he should kill about 3 of the new T5 Terminators in a single go, which sounds pretty good to me considering they are toning down the damage in 10th edition. He is just an absolute beast, and he really is one of the best ways to round out this whole Tyranid force, I think. So that is the Tyranid side of Leviathan. It is enormous. It has hordes, it has psychic, it has utterly terrifying melee, it even has a small dose of artillery. I mean, what more could you ask for? But what do you think of this half of the box? And do you think the Nids or the Marines have the upper hand in terms of the overall contents? I would also really love to know what your favourite model is from this set. Let me know down in the comments below, and as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me, but until next time, I'll catch you later guys.